Oh, shoot. So I was having a little technical difficulties. I apologize for that. Welcome to the Ellis Talker Show. I'm DV LeBron. Today I have a very special guest, a friend of the show, Dr. Hollingsworth, WISD Superintendent. How are you, sir?
I'm doing just fine, DV. Thanks for having me back on.
Well, thank you for coming on. I know you've been everywhere and you've been talking about this bond and talking to people and trying to get the facts out about the bond. So I wanted to have you on to kind of talk about those things to the viewers of the Ellis Talker and just the people in Waxahachie and the parents, outside of Waxahachie that are involved with WISD. You know, this bond has been, bonds can be contentious. Anytime you're asking the public for money, there could be problems with that. So I wanted to go first into the process. How did we come up with this bond, the process of that? Can you kind of tell the viewers about that?
Yeah, so really the story for our development of our bond goes back to shortly after I came to Waxahachie. So I'm in my second year. I came to Waxahachie in August of 21. And when I got here, there were a lot of folks. There's two things that people asked when I got here. They said, when are we going to do a bond? Because we're behind. And then they also said, what's your vision for WISD? And my answer back has been all along that you don't need one person to move here from the Texas Hill Country to tell you what the vision is for Waxahachie ISD. We needed to determine that together, and that impacted when we were going to try to go out for a bond. And so we made a very concerted decision to delay and to wait a little longer on going for a bond. We considered doing one in spring of 22, but really decided pretty quickly in my tenure here that we didn't need to do that. We needed to go through a process to listen to our community, which we did. We got over 2,500 survey responses back from members of our community, and we conducted over 60 hour-long interviews with patrons in the community. And from all that, we developed our vision and our core values. And so that slowed us down. So, but in the spring of 22, in February of 22, to be exact, we started our long-range planning process. And that long-range planning process included over 70 members of our community. And we developed a long-range plan with 2 long-range planning committee meetings in the spring and 6 long-range planning committee meetings in the spring. And from all of their work, that's how we developed what we call our 17,000 plus student plan.
Wow. And it looks like there was a process and there was community involvement. That's usually from what I've seen, when bonds are successful, communication is key.
Yes,
so,
sir.
I wanted to talk about what exactly this bond funds. And now I'm going to go ahead and try to pop up the website for the school district. Let's see. And you're right here. So I wanted to share this for the viewers so they can see the actual stuff on the WISD site. So let's talk about Prop A. Dr. Hollingsworth, can you talk about these new elementary schools, the other stuff, the expansions, why they were needed? What are some of the things you saw there?
Yeah, so one of the things, DV, if you go into, and if you don't mind, and if it's not too much difficulty, you see right there that WISD Bond 2023.
Yes.
That's my presentation that I use all the time. It's the same, and that's available to anybody who wants to look at it.
Okay.
And if you'll go into that real quick, and I can talk about, I want to show you something real quick that provides context for it, which is did that work for you?
Yeah, I'm working on it right now. I had to stop sharing that.
Oh, I'm sorry about that.
All technology and
Yeah,
So
I want to show you the chart that really shows our growth. And if you'll just scroll, it'll be about the fourth slide right there. That one right there. That one's huge, I think, to show you um, what our projections look like. So the left-hand column is our current capacity. If we were able to use every seat we currently have. And when I'm presenting, I like to share with folks to ask them to just focus first on elementary because we talk a lot about high school, junior high. Look at elementary. We have 5,474 seats available today. By 2728, which is 4 years from now, by 2728, we will have an estimated enrollment of over 6,700 students. And that means if we did nothing, just at elementary, we would be short 1,300 seats. If you go to the next column, that is the 32-33 school year, our projected enrollment is 8,677 elementary students. That's pre-K through 5 alone. And in pre-K through 5, we project to have 8,600. If we do nothing, then we will be short 3,200 elementary seats alone. And so I point that out just for elementary. And then if you look junior high, high school, those same patterns hold. DV, we asked our demographer to run us, and I'm a big college football fan. All right, this time of year in college football, they have the way too early football rankings. Okay,
mhm.
we asked for a way too early projection for the early 40s, 41, 42. Um, and the projections for our school district for the early 40s, and that sounds forever away until I let you know that those babies are in the bassinets. The class of 39, 40, 41, those are infants right now. Okay. In the early 40s, Waxahachie ISD is projected to have an enrollment more than 26,000 students.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
Now, and let me play devil's advocate here.
okay.
Um, this comes from demographers, and they're predicting, and this is what they do. They crunch numbers. But some of the people have been saying here and there that there's a downturn coming on this housing market, and things are starting to slow down a little bit. Wouldn't that affect these demographer numbers? Maybe that the enrollment might be going down soon because of what's going on in the housing market. What do you tell those parents, kind of to kind of assuage their fears on that?
Yeah. So a downturn may happen for a couple of years. But in North Texas, anybody who studies any patterns about growth and development in the North Texas region will tell you that a downturn will be very temporary. And so you may see a downturn for a couple of years. But oftentimes, and what my real estate expert friends tell me, and I've got a couple of real estate experts on my board, and they will tell you that, yeah, you may see a downturn for a couple of years, but when it comes back, it typically will come back even stronger than it was before. And so you have to, this is not, we're not planning for the next 2 years. And that's by design. And that's another thing I tell folks when I present. Our community told us in all the feedback we got, they said, don't bring us a plan to get us over the next 3-year hump of growth. We want to know what's the long-term plan. And so what we developed is a 17,000 plus student plan. It's roughly a 10-year plan. But to your point, DV, I don't call it a 10-year plan because the truth is we might hit 17,000 students in 8 years. We might hit 17,000 students in 12 years. But in about 10 years, we're going to hit it.
Yeah, it looks like things are growing by the demographer, and then they go. Can you talk about this phase one?
Yeah, and I'm glad you pulled that one up. And it really does make sense to go through this. And you asked about the props, and I promise you I'll get back to those props. I'm not
Okay,
trying to avoid that,
no, it's
okay?
all right.
Looking at this one that you have pulled up right now, and again, all this is easy to find. It's all online. But notice there's a phase one and there's a phase two to our 17,000 plus student plan. And that's where I tell folks as well, understand that nothing in phase two is being addressed in the 2023 bond package. And I tell them, which means we will be back in about 4 years talking about the next bond proposal. And I tell folks, people want the bond to end all bonds. And I will tell you that in a district that is growing like ours is growing and is going to grow over the long haul, there's no bond to end all bonds. There will be one every 4 or 5 years. And if you don't believe me, ask our friends in Mansfield, ask our friends in Plano, ask our friends in Frisco. They will tell you a very similar story. Mansfield began to grow a lot in the late 80s. They grew all through the 90s, all through the 2000s, all through, and they began to finally taper off in the teens. But they grew for 30 years straight. And they did that, and they paid for their buildings by bonds, period.
And when they, and I wanted to keep going here. I got some questions I'll ask you towards the end, but
Yeah.
I wanted kind of go through your slide and go through the proposals. But this slide contains a lot of information that the people could look up. I put the link on there.
Yes,
So
sir.
can you kind of talk about this particular one? And I'm just
Yeah,
gonna.
so this one right here, it has probably the most moving parts of the plan because, and I always tell people, it's a plan. It requires some explanation. So August of 24 is a best case scenario on when we would hope to be able to open new buildings. Okay. And I put an asterisk up there on the construction timeline because construction timelines are not perfect. Okay. So I'll give myself some wiggle room if we can't get it done by then. But our hope is by August of 24 that we would open neighborhood elementary number 10. And that's what you see right there in the black. It's labeled elementary number 10.
Where do you think that would be, or where do you know that would be at that elementary?
That elementary, we plan to locate at Saddlebrook in the Saddlebrook neighborhood.
Okay.
That developer donated to our district 14 acres, and it is on the north end of that development, and it is there that we plan to build neighborhood elementary number 10.
Excellent.
Yes, sir. Now, this part is where you kind of have to, this is where you're moving some schools that are existing, and we're building a new one. The next one right there in the middle at the top says New Wildman STEAM Academy. Wildman is located in the old pre-1970 Waxahachie High School. Beautiful building in the historic part of our community. That's the Wildman building. That's where Wildman STEAM Elementary is. It currently houses 415 students. DV, we will build a new Wildman STEAM Academy, doubling their capacity to 800 students on a separate piece of property. You're going to want to know where. We have 60 acres just to the west of Waxahachie High School, across Business 287. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know the area.
Yep. And so there's 60 acres right there. That's where we would build a new Wildman STEAM Academy. What?
I'm
Yeah.
sorry to interrupt, but
No, you're good.
can you give me a quick 30, and then get back to it? Just a quick 30,000-foot view of what a STEAM Academy would do, or what it would encompass.
Well, what it does, it's an elementary school, and that elementary school is Kate Authier is the principal. It's a fantastic campus. It's very popular. I have a long waiting list of families that want to be on at that school. We believe we'll fill up one that would house up to 800 kids. What they do is they have the very same curriculum as all of our elementary schools. They simply look for opportunities to use science, technology, engineering, the arts, and math, STEAM, STEAM, to be able to teach the same curriculum. And that's what a STEAM Academy is.
Excellent. Thank you. I wanted maybe there's some parents that didn't quite understand why or where and what its mission was. So I wanted to
Yes,
get
sir.
that out of the way. So yeah, I mean, we could continue with this slide. It says Global High School moves permanently back to the 1970s building. Can you
That
explain?
Wildman, not the 1970s building. No, sir.
Okay.
So Wildman, do you know where that building is, DV?
I don't. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Most people in the community do that. That Wildman Steam Academy is a historic building. We'll move Wildman Elementary out, and then we will return Global to that campus. Global High School was in that campus up until about 5 years ago. Right, that was
Okay.
before you and me. Okay,
Mhm.
and so Global returns to that campus. Global is currently located in what's called the Hancock Building. That is behind HEB.
Okay.
That's where Global currently is. It will add on to the Hancock building to where it will hold up to 1,200 kids. We will move Coleman Junior High across the street to give Coleman a newer, better long-term building. All right.
Okay.
Once we've cleared out, now the Coleman Junior High is currently at what most people know as the 1970 high school, right there on 77.
Right.
Okay. Once we move Coleman Junior High out of that building, we will and that's what you see right there in the bottom middle. We will temporarily create a ninth grade center at that campus while we build Comprehensive High School number 2.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, there is a lot of moving parts
Yep.
there, Superintendent. You're not kidding when you say there's some moving parts there.
Yes,
But
sir.
I want you, the audience, to kind of understand when you look through this video. I wanted you to get as much information as possible. I know sometimes these things can be a little, tedious, but this is your money. This is what you're voting on, and I want you to know what you're voting on.
Well, it's a
So,
plan, and the plan uses existing buildings, and it also where we have to, it builds new ones.
so you got this bond issue phase one, and so you'll issue the bond. Phase one will do the expansion of Finley, the expansion of Howard. What are those projects? Like, what does expansion mean? What is that going to mean?
Well, we want in short, you're expanding Finley to be able to house up to 1,200 students.
Okay.
Okay, so I told you we're going to move Coleman Junior High to the Hancock building. We're going
Yes.
to expand Hancock to house up to 1,200 students. We'll expand Finley to house up to 1,200 students. We'll expand Howard to house up to 1,200 students. So the standard size for those 3 junior highs will be up to 1,200 kids.
Okay. So you expand capacity. So like adding a wing, not tearing down complete thing, but adding wings to the existing building.
Howard is a larger building and needs less work.
Okay.
Howard is about a $5 million expansion because you're really adding a few classrooms. Very little work needs to be done on their cafeteria space, their commons area space, et cetera, et cetera. Finley, however, is short on those common areas. So Finley would have a hard time housing that many kids with its current cafeteria, for example, with its current library, for example. And so Finley will have more extensive work done.
Okay. And then the facilities upgrades throughout the district, is that, air conditioners? Is that, what does that look like?
Yeah. So if you go, and I won't ask you to do that right now, but where you clicked on this presentation,
Yes, sir.
directly below it, it says details. And that details presentation is available in English and in Spanish. And that details presentation will give you what is planned at all of our existing campuses. It'll tell you what we plan for Dunaway. It'll tell you what we plan for Finley Junior High. It will tell you what we plan for uh, any of our campuses. Yeah, right there below it, just below that. Yeah, we're right there where it says
I
detail.
got this one,
Yes, sir.
and I'm just going to give a little quick glimpse on it because, unfortunately, I don't have as much time as I'd like. But, they go into, okay, so prop A, prop B, prop C, these upgrades. Let's see. So break that down for me. Proposition A, the those elementaries we talked about, the STEAM.
Yeah, so
we-
Proposition A is your elementary schools. It includes the expansions to the junior highs and land for future school sites. Okay.
eh,
Proposition B, which we've not talked about yet, is comprehensive high school number two. Proposition C are facility upgrades throughout the district on all of our existing campuses. And Proposition B is improvements only to the athletics area at Waxahachie High School. And I'll talk more about that here in a minute.
so Prop B, comprehensive high school
Yep.
number two, and it'll get have a capacity of 3,200 students, comparable to Waxahachie High School, expanded CTE programs. What does that look like?
Well, we will do a similar CTE setup at Comprehensive High School number two, but not identical to, which would allow us to offer some programs that may be unique to Comprehensive High School number two or to WHS.
Excellent. And then the land, you already got the land for this.
Yes, we do. We do. If you can go back, and I don't see it right now, but if you can go back to that presentation that you had up, it kind of lays that out. It'll show you exactly where that's located, DV.
Okay, so
We run out of time.
no, we're good.
Okay.
I wanted to. So
So we skipped August of 26. Now it's August of 27 is the next page. You see there?
yes,
So August of 27 is the earliest that we could open comprehensive high school number two. All right. And this is where I always kind of talk to people, because some people I don't want a second high school. But that's where I say, okay, but you got to go back to our data that shows the numbers of kids that we're going to have. DV, by the late 20s in WISD, we will have the students to fill two comprehensive high schools. Okay. Our data shows, and that'll carry us, it should carry us into the mid 30s. But by the late 30s, our data shows that we would be able to, we will need to have the conversation about a third comprehensive high school.
you know it is growing. And can you speak on, because I know you know about this, comparable to other districts in the area, that have two high school, like let's say Midlothian, who I believe is smaller, and they have two high schools.
Yeah, scroll to the next one,
Let me get to
please.
back
Or
to
actually two more. I can show you. You can go past, there you go, the one with the maps right there. So one of the things, this slide, DV, I've gotten more response from than any other thing in the presentation. First thing, people had no idea how large Waxahachie ISD is. And those are to scale. But here, let me tell you the districts that you've got on that page with us, all right? The one in yellow is Allen. A lot of people have said we should be like Allen. Let's do one. And if you know anything about Allen, Allen has one mega high school, but they're all the Eagles. They've never created a second comprehensive high school. Allen is a single mega high school. You've got almost 6,000 kids on one campus. They have a ninth grade center, and then they have 10 through 12. But look at Allen's size. Allen is north of Plano, south of McKinney. Allen is built out. There is no land on which to grow. Allen's not going to grow much more. There's South Lake Carroll. Some people said, let's do South Lake Carroll. They've got one high school. Let's stick with that. South Lake Carroll is 20 square miles. Now, Prosper is in the purple right there. Prosper is more like us. They are north of Frisco. They have 58 square miles of land. They have two comprehensive high schools right now. They will have a third large comprehensive high school in the fall.
And 21,000 students.
And there's Waxahachie ISD. We have 191.6 square miles. You and I will not live to see this district built out like Allen.
Wow.
We're going to grow for a long time. Go to the next one. Let me show you the next one,
Yeah,
please.
yeah, no problem. Let me get to, okay.
Okay. This is a great comparison here of other districts that have a big footprint like us that are within that 20 to 30-mile ring around Dallas and Fort Worth. And I share with people, if you want a good comparison between for us to peer into the future and kind of see where we're headed as a district, go to Louisville. Oh, Jerry, Louisville's nothing like us. Oh, but they were. 50 years ago, Louisville was a one-horse town, a one high school community. They had Louisville High School. Today, Louisville has Louisville, the Colony, Marcus, Hebron, Flower Mound. 5 large high schools.
Wow.
Louisville is how far from downtown Dallas? Oh, about 30 miles to the northwest. Waxahachie is how far from downtown Dallas?
About 30
About
miles.
30 miles to the south.
Right.
The Metroplex grew north for a very long time. Now it's growing south, and it's
Right.
going to grow south for a very long time. Mansfield's another one. We all know Mansfield. Mansfield has 5 comprehensive high schools, an early college high school like Global, and they have the Ben Barber Career and Technical Center. They have 7 buildings for educating high school kids.
Wow.
And so you get the drift. I mean,
Okay.
that's our future.
Yeah, and it looks like, I mean, this is a cool slide. It really is, because it shows what these others are doing, and where Waxahachie ISD sits in all of this. And one of the things with um with having all this space and being this close to Dallas, like he's saying, it's going to grow. It's grown since I've been here. I came to this area in 14, and it's very different than what it was in 14, and it those things keep expanding, and kids keep showing up. Can you speak real quickly on what has been the increase in students for this year?
Yeah. So this school year, we ended last school year with 10,140. Currently, I'm at 10,880. We've grown by about 1,000 kids since I arrived
Wow.
in August of 21.
Kids,
So 20 months. Yeah.
where are you getting your most growth?
Um, all over the community. We have growth out in the county in developments that are not in the city of Waxahachie, and certainly we have growth within the city of Waxahachie, mainly in houses. Believe it or not, the new apartments don't yield a lot of students, especially when they're new. New apartment complexes yield very few students because they're geared more toward young professionals or retirees.
Right.
As those apartment buildings age in 20, 30 years, they'll yield more students.
One of the things that when I talked to Dr. Fay at MISD, when we talked about, she told me that the pre-K and the elementaries were getting hit the hardest. Are you experiencing kind of similar to that?
I don't know that I would say they're getting hit the hardest. No, sir. We're seeing growth really across all of our campuses. I mean, pre-K, we're certainly growing in pre-K, but I don't know that we're experiencing the exact same thing there that Midlothian is. I don't want to say we're not I mean, we're both experiencing a lot of growth, but I don't know that ours has been specific to pre-K.
Excellent. So I wanted to get into taxes and debt concerns that people raise. So I have the tax slide up right now for the taxes on the school tax rates. And as you know, taxes for the school are the biggest portion of your when you're paying your mortgage. The biggest tax part is the schools. That's why I interview school board members, because when you get that tax bill, they had something to do with that. And so Now, we're at a certain tax rate. We're at 1.3268, and it's, according to this, it's the lowest tax rate since 99 2000. One of the biggest concerns that I see people saying is, hey, I can't afford my house because this mortgage payment keeps going up because I'm paying more and more in school taxes, city taxes, county taxes. We're paying more and more and more. So I want you to kind of speak to that. And I'm sorry I went long on that, but I want you to speak on that concern because there's a lot of parents that voice it.
Yeah, so our tax rate is $1.32, and that is the lowest tax rate we've had since 99 2000. And when people stop me, and they stop me when I'm getting my milk, and they want to talk about, their taxes, and the thing that I know that causes the tax bill to go up has not been our tax rate; it has been property values. Okay, the values of people's property have gone up considerably. And one of the questions people ask me all the time is like, well, what are y'all doing with all that money? I see all these people moving in. There's more people paying taxes. So what's happening with all that money? And so what people do not understand, and this is something I've shared with a lot of different folks as I've met with them, and a lot of people had no idea that this is the case. But I can sit you down with my CFO, with Mr. Calden, and he can show you exactly what we're talking about. As the district collects more local revenue, and we have because of higher property values, mine have gone up. All of my board members pay property taxes too. And as those local revenues increase, the state reduces their aid to the district at a commensurate rate.
Oh, wow. So they're taking away what they're supposed to be giving you,
Yes,
because you're making more off the values
yes,
of the house. I
yes.
mean, go ahead on that.
No, and so what happens is we realize very little in terms of increases in revenue because the states reduced their aid to us by formula. And so people say, "What y'all doing with all that, man?" Well, we're not awash in cash because as that local revenue went up, the state reduced what they were giving us. And in effect, what has happened is the state has shifted the burden of paying for public schools from the legislature to the local taxpayer. And that's the truth. That's exactly what has happened.
There are structural problems, and I've talked about that. With There are bills that are up there right now that they're debating in the Texas legislative session about property taxes and schools, and how that how that those formulas happen. And actually, so our representative is part of that, as far as representing. He's on that committee for the schools. So if you want to talk to your representative about that, he definitely has a open door policy about that. So just a tidbit, because you want to communicate with those that represent you. So people are concerned with the taxes. There's the legal language that says that you could raise the taxes up as high as you have to pay this bond. That is something that's commonly put out there. So can you address that?
Yeah, I sure can. And it's a really easy answer because people say, did you see the verbiage on, did you see the language that the district put on there? That verbiage, DV, is required by law.
Okay.
Every bond in the state of Texas by any school district must use that exact language.
Wow. So it's something that has to be said. It
Absolutely, we have no option. And so it's, I've I did have a patron who really wanted to go on and on about that the other night, and I didn't really know how to answer that because, well, I can't believe that it says that, and I'm like, I'm
so
sorry, ma'am, you'll have to talk to your legislator because at the end of the day, by law, we are required to say that. And what the intent behind it is that the legislature and I suppose the intent behind it is to ensure that the district will pay its debts.
Okay.
Okay. But understand, we have, there's nothing in our history, uh, uh, recent or long-term history, to tell us that we would have to do something crazy in terms of raising the tax rate to pay off the bond. That's just simply the verbiage that's required by law. We anticipate it would be right there on that slide, what you have. We anticipate it will raise our interest and sinking tax rate, which is currently at 38 cents. It would raise that rate to 41 cents, which would be a 3 penny increase,
3 penny increase on a house valued at 326.
which
Uh,
would be $5.61 a month is the estimate that this would increase your tax bill.
so with the legal language, would you say that if everything went wrong, that would be what applies?
Yeah, so there are like two districts I know of in the whole state of Texas that have had to exceed a 50 cent interest and sinking tax rate. And the reason they had to do that is because they saw a dramatic shift. One of them, for example, was a West Texas district that saw a mass exodus of kids from their district. And so, as they saw a mass exodus, which some of West Texas school districts are seeing that because, there are it takes a lot fewer farmers to farm the land in West Texas than it used to. And so, these small towns, many of them have seen a mass exodus. And so, there are a couple of occasions where districts have had to raise their tax rate because they lost all their community members or a big chunk of their community members.
Wow.
So that's the kind of really extenuating circumstance where a district had to go to lengths to raise their tax rate. But there is nothing in our projections on any level that the city has, the county has, that we have, that will indicate that we will be losing folks.
So have you made like in these presentations, and I admit I have not been to these presentations. That's why I kind of wanted you on to speak to the people on that. One more extra format. I like to be provide information.
Thank you.
So it's the one of the things that have been brought up is the current amount of debt. So you have $230 million roughly that you're carrying in debt in the school district, and you want to add 594 million, almost $595 million of debt to it. A lot of people concerned because now that becomes 700 or 800 on my math. California education system did not work for me. So, we're looking at, 800,000 or 700, $800 million of debt. How do you, again, speak to the parents about that may be a little nervous about carrying that much debt?
Yeah, so the one thing I would tell you is that when my wife and I have purchased homes in the past, we go to the closing and we sign page after page after page. And there's one page that Ginger and I always sign, and everybody who's ever signed a mortgage has to sign. And they show you that last page where it has all of the principal and all of the interest that you'll pay over a 30-year period of time. And it's usually a pretty eye-popping number
Yeah.
for one house, right?
Yeah.
And so these are large buildings. They weren't cheap to build 5 years ago. They're not cheap to build now. Simpson Elementary is our newest elementary, DV. Simpson was built 4 years ago for a cost of $23 million, 4 years ago. Our architect estimates that rebuilding Simpson now would cost us a little over $40 million today. All
Wow.
right. So you're talking about school buildings. And I would just say, if you take your own home and you add 2 zeros to the end of that last page on your mortgage payment, we're talking about the same kind of math.
Right.
And,
Yeah.
and so my point is, yes, those are big numbers. I'm never going to sit here and tell you that's not a lot of money. It is a lot of money. But districts must build schools, and the schools cost a lot of money. And I will tell you that kicking the can will not save us money.
Right.
And you know, the district in some respects kicked the can from 2 years ago. And so, but kicking the can will not save you money in the long run. It'll cost you money in the long run.
Dr. Hollingsworth, I wanted to ask you that, you know, it's 595, close to $1 million bond. Is that all at once? Does that hit the budget all at once, or is that something that, uh, um, you know, little by little, little by little? Maybe people don't understand that. I don't quite understand how it handles. So can you?
Yeah, that's a great question, DV. And no, sir, you don't sell all of those bonds at one time. You sell the bonds as you need them. So you might think in terms of we might sell $200 million of bonds to begin that first phase of the bond package.
Mhm.
And then when it's time to really get going on building your comprehensive high school, you might sell another 150 million, that kind of thing. Okay.
Okay.
But let me give you another figure on comprehensive high schools. So to build a 3,200 student high school 7 years ago, which is what WHS is 6 or 7 years ago, that building cost $118 million. To build a similar high school now is in excess of $300 million.
Wow.
And those are construction costs. You can ask anybody, call another superintendent who's going through fast growth. I talk to a lot of them, and they're dealing with the very same issues that we are. And those commercial construction costs are not going to go down.
So there have been people that said, well, why do we have to have such a bougie high school? Why can't we get something more tapered down? Or, why can't we put trailers, the bungalows? I don't know what they call them now,
Portables.
but portables. I had portables in high school at some point, and why not those? And can you kind of speak on that briefly? Because I'm running out of time.
Yes, I can, and I will tell you, if you think about that slide that we showed you, where you have maintenance and operations and you have interest and sinking, those two buckets of money. Uh, Maintenance and operations is how we pay for just about everything. It's how you hire teachers. It's how you pay for your lights. It's how you pay for your fuel for your buses, school supplies, you name it. Okay. Interest and sinking, that tax rate is only for the purpose of paying debt on bonds. That's it. That's the only purpose of that. When you buy portable buildings must be purchased out of maintenance and operations. Buying a couple of them is not going to have a huge impact on them. We just bought two of them at last month's board meeting because we're going to put two of them at Simpson because we have to. All right. When you have to buy 40 or 50 of them out of your maintenance and operations budget, it will have a serious impact on your ability to do all of these things that I just mentioned.
Right.
All right. And so that's one piece I'll tell you. As far as having a bougie high school, et cetera, I will tell you that our high school is commensurate with most of the new high schools that I am familiar with in the North Texas area. It's beautiful. It is very nice. But I will also tell you this. For a large percentage of the children who walk through our doors, the nicest, cleanest building that they come to and the most consistent, well air conditioned, safest place they come to are our schools. And when we build a school, when we built Waxahachie High School, we didn't build it to be a 4-year building or a 5-year building. We built it to be a 40 or 50-year building. We expect it to last for a very long time before we'll do anything to go back in and love on it again with any kind of renovations, et cetera.
So
that's
you're forward thinking. You're forward thinking. I'm sorry to
what
cut
we
you
have
off,
to
but
do. Yes, sir.
you're doing, because we've been having this conversation on this, and you keep saying, hey, we're looking at future and what's coming, and so would you say this is forward thinking? This is trying to get ahead of the power curve. Would you say that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I will tell you that you and I know families care deeply about what our schools look like, how safe they are, and if it's a place that they want to raise their families.
They do, but they also are concerned about what they're paying on their mortgage, sir. And
Yes, sir. No, no doubt. No doubt.
there's there's
Absolutely.
there's there's weighing concerns. You want the
Yeah.
best for your kid, but you only there's when you get your paycheck, the average person, they get their paycheck. It is what it is.
Yes,
It's
sir.
not really going up. And so there's a lot of things that go into that. But
DV, I understand. I understand what it's like to struggle for money. I grew up in a double wide mobile home outside of Boyd, Texas.
wow,
Okay. And so I know exactly what that feels like. I know what it feels like to wait until the next paycheck so we can go buy, new underwear or whatever. I know those feelings. Yes, sir.
I love that because when you're born without that silver spoon, you appreciate things a little more. The journey was longer for people like you and me.
Yes, sir. It
It,
absolutely was.
it's a little bit longer to where we're at now.
I went to TCU and I paid for it all, and it took me a long time to pay for it. But my
Eh,
mom and dad loved me, but they didn't pay for it. I paid
Yeah,
for it all on my own.
yeah, I'm not paying for my kids. I mean, fortunately, my military service does cover some of it, but I said that's their college; they can figure it out. So, last thing that I'll talk to you about with it is, and we covered the taxes. We covered. Um, let's see, and I'm sorry, I'm having a brain thing. I had COVID, and COVID brain is real. So these schools, why didn't you do something? Or I know that this was a committee, let me word that differently. Why didn't the committee and the way that this plan, why wasn't it structured down maybe a little bit? Why was it so aspirational? Why is it so big? That's a question that's always asked.
Well, it's real simple. Our needs are big. Uh, we don't have, again, I'm going to go back to the community feedback we received, DV, was don't bring us a plan for the next 2 or 3 years.
Okay.
We want to know long term what the plan is. We haven't had time today for me to go through the entire package, okay? And that's in there. But I will tell you, and I encourage people to go through each of those slides. But I will tell you, we have significant um, enrollment concerns at every level. A lot of people are more willing to say we need, or I'll vote for an elementary, but I ain't no way I'm voting for another high school.
I've heard that.
Guys, I'm going to tell you, the needs are no different. We will have by the early 30s, we will have close to 6,000 high school kids.
Wow.
By the late 30s, we're going to have close to or exceeding 8,000 high school kids. High
That,
school.
that's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot. Well, my friend, I could have you on, and I wish that we could have covered it a little bit more, but we have gone on longer than I usually go on the program, and I did that on purpose. I wanted people to get as much information out as I could, so you guys can make a decision. I don't have a dog in the fight. I don't. That's not how I operate this show. I put out information, and you decide. And I put the link down there. There's a link to the slides that I was showing you, so you can look at them and examine them. Um, and I wanted to ask you just on parting, is there, like, if they does your CFO tell you that we're healthy enough for this?
Oh, absolutely, we're healthy. And I will tell you that, you know, we've paid a lot of our debt off early. That building, the buildings that we've built, and the current debt that we have restructured that debt. Uh, Twice we've refinanced that debt in order to save money on interest, to save money for taxpayers. And so the district has done an excellent job of paying off our debt early. It is very manageable, and it is something that we plan for all the time on a daily basis.
Excellent. Well, Dr. Hollingsworth, thank you so much for giving me your time. I know you're busy and you're going to different places, and giving me the time to explain to the people of Waxahachie what's going on with this bond. Thank you, man. I always appreciate having you on.
Oh, I love coming on with you. And let me just give you a couple of plugs. Uh, on this coming Sunday night, I will be at 7 o'clock. I will be at Waxahachie Bible Church this Sunday night. The next Sunday, I'm going to go to the 11 o'clock service at Friendship Missionary Baptist Church on the east side of Waxahachie. And I'll start my presentation there around 12:30 to 1 on Sunday afternoon. That Sunday night, not this one, but the next one. This one, I'm at Waxahachie Bible. The next Sunday night at 6, I'll be at the Avenue, and I'll give a presentation there. So any of your listeners who want to hear, I'll be at those churches giving those presentations.
And if you have questions and you have concerns, I've always found Dr. Hollingsworth easy man to get a hold of and willing to answer your questions. So you can, these different places is going to be on. You have a concern or a question, it's a lot better than putting it on Facebook. Go see the man and ask him those questions. He's had to answer them, and he will answer them for you. So go get those presentations, because at the very least you will be informed when you do that vote coming next week, or early voting, I believe, is next week. When you place that vote, you will be more informed when you're placing it, instead of just taking somebody's word for it. Again, thank you so much for coming on. I got to get going.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Bye bye.